So the overnight short into the continuation intraday, as asked. The first thing I wanted to mention is that, yeah, I'd been looking for the possibility of an outside day today based on the price action yesterday. And pretty early on in the overnight session, we get that Biden McCarthy press conference, and they said absolutely nothing at all. So there was pretty much no reason for futures to rip, and they just started ripping. I didn't see any reason to cover if you were short. I didn't really see any reason to bid if you were looking to long. And so when I saw that, it just sort of raises some warning bells for me. I've seen enough of these Globex sessions to know what's going on. And really, once we cleared 13 and bid it, we were going to take these stops. So I was actually thinking about taking a long in here, and I just had some things to do, so I didn't. Decided to wait and see how it shaped up. Now, what I really wanted to have happen is I wanted last week's highs taken out because they were just horrific highs. It's not what high should look like. That's outside scope here, but I really wanted to see some of that, and in particular in cash hours if possible. But it looked like we were headed for it last night, so we adapt. And as we were trading up into it, I had to, I know a few people that were long, and they're like, "Hey, I'm closing my longs," and I was like, "Yeah, well, it's going up here to 21, paper hand." And then, another buddy of mine was like, "Hey, we should short here," and I think it was right here, so it was pretty close. I mean, that would have been a fine entry, but probably got blown out there. And I was waiting for this. I wanted to see specifically this if I'm going to enter, and maybe even Friday's high would have been nice. So what I'm looking for specifically, and what I saw, I'm going to zoom in here. You get this outlier volume, this high volume sweep of those relative equal highs. I mean, 4,250 in a 5-minute candle is not small volume for this time of night. This was what, 9:45 Eastern, I guess. So that's pretty high volume there, and that reads as a stop run to me every time, with the intent to take it much lower. So from there, I can zoom out and let's see, where we're headed. And so for me, I'm looking at this stop here, taking out all these bidders from the McCarthy Biden session. Stops here, stops here, stops here, maybe stops here, and I posted that. I think pre-market we were trading around here, and I circled this one with a question mark. It wasn't really a question mark to me, to be honest. So as we come into the open, I would point out a couple of things. This 97.5, which ended up being today's opening range high. I'll get to that in a minute. It's really above here is where most of yesterday's price action took place. Here was yesterday's cash hours low. You see we trade into that. We still make a lower high, and this is where I posted right in here that I was looking for kind of a high volume flush through 91, and I was going to cover a few prior to open. Just to manage risk, because it's possible they're just running yesterday's lows to rip it right back up. I mean, we've all seen the call buyers come in right at open, and it is really important to just let the day open before you have too strong of a bias. So we do get that flush. I did cover some and hold some, and also posted that, okay, well, here we are, possible true gap down, which means you're gapping down below the low of cash hours from the prior day. So just completely outside. A true gap is just completely outside the prior day's range. So the tough spot here is, where's the open? Here's the open, this green candle here. So we're opening like, I don't know, 87.75. So not even 4 points below the prior day's low. So it sort of puts you in a difficult spot to read this, because generally you're looking for interest below the open first, and then if you bid the prior day's low after a true gap down, you generally would expect a gap fill, and you're only a few points below. So it definitely put things in a tight spot here. So I think because of that, we get some of this channeling at the open. There really was not much interest below the open, and really not much interest below the prior day's low. So most of the action took place above. The blue lines are the opening range. Here's the high, here's the low. And you can see again, most of the time, at least candle body closes are above yesterday's low. So it's hard to be too confident in continuation, but also there's a few spots, I guess, where you can manage some risk. So you get your opening range established here. Okay, this is the first candle after the opening range. So sure, in general, you can short the opening range high pretty much any time, and you can certainly short, this look above and fail. For me, that's not for me. A 12-point opening range, trading from my phone is kind of hard to execute with that much precision. That I'm not looking to trade, a max 12-point trade, and a lot of times that's like your best case scenario. You don't really break the opening range. And you're just going for 6 to get halfway, or 12, and that's not really my style. But it's definitely a trade that you can take. You can short against the opening range high, take some off, maybe hold some runners, and sort of see what happens. It's not really again my trade. So for me, there were 2 decent entries, maybe 3. So I'm going to come in here. We're up near the top of the opening range. And we see finally we get a decent seller and get this 5-minute reoffer set up. Okay, so I would anchor off this candle body and this candle open to see if we get continuation. I think I did actually add here right around, I guess what this would have been about 95 or so. And really the only reason I have maybe a little bit more optimism that this is going to work and ultimately break the opening range low is just because of the relative aggression of this seller versus the aggression of the buyers, and the fact that this 5-minute reoffer did pop up and it worked out, but not like high grade A+ setup. But it is a spot you're managing risk against the opening range high, so it's not the worst. I mean, you're talking about a couple of points here, so that's not bad at all. You're probably still taking some off before we even break the opening range low. So that brings up, kind of the next setup. So you do get a number of traders that will actually trade the breakout. I don't trade breakouts that way. If anything, I probably actually did cover. I think I did actually covered some into this flush. And the reason why is that I'm expecting, first I'm expecting 76 to give a little bit of a pop, 76, 77. But more I'm expecting this back test to the opening range low. So this to me is probably the highest probability short of the day. Again, in terms of probability and decent range, it's perfect. You basically just back test this and then immediately flushes. So here, some people have wider risk. To me, I don't want to see it over this candle open. So, if I short 85.25, I'm not giving it more than 2.5 points, I guess, 87.75. I don't want to see it over this candle. Because if this seller gets taken out, we're going to break the opening range high and run, for sure. So yeah, from there, you're just basically letting it ride. I actually included some of these levels on here, almost just to show something amusing as we trended down. Let's call this 77 for ease. We'll call this 70, these green levels. And this is just if you're really new to levels and you want to find something decent, sometimes it's as easy as this. This 71 is really clean. So what I'll do is I'll take, here's the last seller that tries to short the hole, and then he gets smoked by a nice aggressive move up. I'm just going to take this candle open and work with that level, and it's going to be close. It'll be within a point or so. I'm not saying you're going to get a 20-point move off it on a day like today, but it's going to provide you a decent level into the next day if this had happened, the previous day. And then the same thing here. You have the aggressive move up. I take the last guy that sold. Here's the open of the red candle. And sure enough, we got reactions there. Again, not strong, but like if you're looking to scale out, maybe it's here, maybe it's here, and then from there, no reaction at 62. A little surprised by that, I guess, but not super surprised. It was more of sort of a gateway to 53, and even 48 off of 62. You may or may not recall. Let's see if I need to go back further. Yeah, I'm going to go back one extra day here, I believe. Yeah, all right, so here's 62. I probably don't remember, but when we had this day, this breakout day, I sort of made this joke while we were up here, threatening to really break out of the top of this range. Like, hey, shorts, all you got to do is get it under 62 now, and you'll get 48 to 53. And that's really just because you can see there's nothing here between really on this day 48 and 62, and you've got these clean green candles. You look at that on a volume profile, it's going to be really, really thin, probably single prints, at least a low volume node relative within this time period. So that's where 62 came from, knowing that I'm getting 48 to 53. You can see where 48 came from, solid structure, prior resistance in 48, and then 53 was the higher time frame. If you've been following, I've been using 53 forever.